Hey everyone, Kunik here, back with another D&D story for you today. In this story, we have a character that isn't quite what he seems on the outside. I won't spoil any more, so without further ado, let's roll for initiative and get on with the story. I'm playing a Warforged Arcane Archer who is, essentially, Fantasy Frankenstein's monster, but book inspiration, rather than the movies. His name is Allahan, and he's a lot of fun. I should note that my DM and players are aware of the fact that Allahan is not a traditional Warforged. Rather than made of metal and living wood, he was created from various body parts. Needless to say, he's grisly to look at, which is why he is so thoroughly covered. However, no one in-game knows. I described him as wearing full-body leather coverings. Think the Org 13 cloaks. Under the hood, he has a wooden mask, meaning nothing of his skin is revealed at any point in time. He doesn't sleep, so attempts to peek under his cloak are never really successful. He stuffs his pockets and all inside the cloak with what amounts to potpourri, always adding nice smelling plants he encounters. Every time he meets someone new, and I do mean every time, he makes a best guess at what their race is. He then says something along the lines of, "Hello fellow human, I am human." It's especially funny when this 7-foot-tall behemoth tells a dwarf, "I am also a dwarf." Always gets a laugh from the party. When a woman was upset because her son was taken by cultists, he reached into his sleeve and pulled out a handful of dried flowers and put it in her hands. "This is a gift. Feel better." Before she can respond, he holds out his hand. "I need that back now." He's played as a bit of a comic relief, who happens to be terrifyingly efficient in combat. He easily has the highest kill count in the party, which is understandable since he stands back with a heavy crossbow, raining death on cultists. It's magnificent. At one point, we were asked to capture a high-ranking cultist, which we did thanks to some hilarity. In the evening, we attended a celebration and feast, but Allahan isn't eating or drinking. He's simply watching. And I tell the DM if he notices anyone looking at him, he locks eyes. Not that his are visible, and stares that person down until they look away. At some point, he piles his plate up with food and, with all the subtlety of an orc barbarian trying to sneak, throws the plate of food over his shoulder and comments that it is tasty. I'm told that the people of the keep are well and thoroughly afraid of him at this point. We later learn that there were unsuccessful attempts to get information from the priestess. A few more in-game days pass, and I tell the DM that Allahan waits until the priestess is alone and goes into her cell. My DM, genius that she is, plays along with this whole scene perfectly. Allahan enters and stands stock still, quietly saying, "When next they come to speak to you, you are going to tell them everything." It's important to note that up until this point, Allahan's voice had always been friendly. Even when he was talking to enemies he was currently trying to kill. Not anymore. It had gotten deeper, more serious. Gone was the inflection of the carefree giant who liked flowers and weirding out peasants. The priestess responds, "Or what? What will you do?" It's at this point that Allahan approaches. He simultaneously removes his mask and hood, and the players are paying rapt attention. Allahan has never done this before. I describe how he has ashen skin, with scar tissue lining areas where the tone doesn't match up quite right. Allahan, directly in her face, snarls, "Or I will eat you alive." Intimidate at advantage. 19 on the roll, plus like 5 or something. I don't recall. She rolls a 2 against my check. She's terrified. She then must make a con save, which she fails, becoming sick and letting loose the scant contents of her stomach. Allahan stands back up and puts his hood and mask back on, telling her, "Remember, tell them everything." As he leaves, he says, "That cannot die lies eternal dreaming, and with strange eons, even death may die." The weird motto from Lovecraft that I decided is his, mantra. He goes immediately to the dwarf in charge of the fort and tells him that the priestess will talk next time they question her. "How'd you manage that?" he asks, clearly suspicious. They'd threatened her, even tortured her. This dwarf knew their prisoner wasn't going to crack easily. Allahan simply replies, "I asked nicely." The next morning, he accompanies the dwarf, along with our rogue, to speak to the prisoner. The moment Allahan walks into the room, she begins to weep. The dwarf looks at me. "What did you do?" Allahan simply stares at her as she sobs his little poem. He says, "I asked nicely." And that is how I convinced everyone I was playing a comic relief character, when in fact I am playing a terrifying monster who has convinced a group of adventurers that he's harmless. I can't wait for the next session. End post. That was glorious. It is always tricky to do a character that is trying to deceive the party. More often than not, it comes off incredibly cringe. But in this case, utter perfection. This was amazing. And what's even better is that the characters do not know that he is like this, but the players do. So the players internally are going to be freaking out every time they have to do anything with this character in the future, but the characters don't know any of it. So if they roleplay it perfectly, they won't know a thing. And it's just going to build a lot of intrigue and mystery into the character, more so than already exists. Again, this is perfect. So, with that all said, that wraps up this story. As always, the source of the video is in the description below. And if you liked the video and you want to see more just like it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and bell notification icon to be notified of future videos. And if you're also interested, you can join our Discord to chat with us in a more direct means. Link is in the description. So, while you wait for a new video to come out from my channel, here are a few related videos that you can watch in the meantime.